Guys, in today's video, we will take a look at SQL Manager feature that lets you forcefully resync data whenever a list structure has changed. That means whenever you have added any new columns, then the resynchronization of data can be done automatically if you enable this feature. Now, what this feature does is it performs a full resynchronization of all the replicated SQL tables when a source list has any new columns added to it. Now, in some scenarios, you want the data that has been predefined in those columns. For example, if the column is the column has a default value, or if it is based on a or if it's a calculated column based on other columns, then you want that data to be pre-filled in those columns. But you also want that to be resynchronized to your SQL tables. Now, this feature will allow you to do that. Now let's see how it works. So let's go to our SQL List Manager. So for this demo, we are going to create two replications, one with this feature enabled and the other one without this feature, just to see the difference. So let's create a new replication. I'm going to use my AxioWorks site. And for this one, I'm going to use my assets demo list. And just to show you where that feature is, so if you open up developer options, you will see the first one on the list. So for this replication, we won't be using this feature. So let's click next. And I'm going to use my assets database for this. Next, let's call it assets application. Let's finish it. All right, so our replication has been created. Now, if you go back to the database, so this is the database. And if we open up the tables, you can see that we have this table created. All right. Now let's go to the SharePoint list and let's create a calculated column based on some other columns, and then we'll see how the changes are reflected in the table. So let's go to list settings and let's create a new column. Let's call it calculated. We're using calculated column for this, and just going to use a formula based on, let's just say I'm going to use the status, title and status, and then just concatenate it to make a value. This should work. Now if I go back here, I'll see that the rows are pre-populated with the data. Now if I go to my SQL Server and if I refresh this table, and let's look at the columns, let's see if we have that. All right, we have the calculated column. And if I refresh the rows here, let's look. So you can see there's no value in that calculated column, which is what we were expecting, which is fine. Now let's create a new application. If you go to SQL Manager, let's create a new application. I'm going to use the same list. And if you click next, this time we're going to use the issue tracker list. All right, let's scroll down. Here we go. And this time we are going to enable this feature. So we want the data to be resynchronized automatically. Let's click next. I'm going to use my issue tracker database. Next. So that's AxioWorks issue tracker now. All right, that should do it. Now if I go to my database here, I should be able to see the tables coming anytime. All right, so the tables has been created here, as you can see. One more refresh should have that table. All right, so the table is here. Now let's go to this list and let's create a new calculated columns the same way. And this time the data should be replicated. So if we create column, let's call it populated again to give you an indication of it belongs to a different list. And this time, all right, calculated. And we're going to use the same formula here. And all right, so now if we go back to our list, this should have the data pre-filled. All right, we can see the data is in that column. And if I go to the database and if I refresh it, this one should have the column now, should be at the bottom. Yep, there you go. And if I open up the rows for this, as you can see that the calculated column has the data added in it as well. So it not just updates the structure of the list, but it also adds the data into the list as well, into that column as well. All right, and that's it for this demo. Thanks for watching, and feel free to ask any questions that you may have about this or about anything in AxioWorks Manager. Till next time, thanks. Bye.